Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today's discussion centers around a statement that many long-time followers of Iraq's monetary reform process will immediately recognize as significant. The phrase, "This next phase is one we've been watching for many years," suggests that developments currently unfolding may represent a structural transition rather than a routine policy adjustment. When the comment continues with the expectation that this phase could include a real effective exchange rate, or REER, and that the stage appears to be set with solid supporting data, it becomes clear that we are talking about macroeconomic alignment rather than speculation. To understand what this means, we need to step back and define the concept of a real effective exchange rate. A REER is not simply a new posted exchange rate. It is a broader economic measure that evaluates a country's currency value against a basket of other currencies, adjusted for inflation differentials. In simple terms, it reflects competitiveness. If a country's REER is too high, its exports may become expensive and less competitive globally. If it is too low, imports become costly and inflation pressures can rise. Therefore, when analysts mention a move toward a real effective exchange rate, they are typically referring to alignment with economic fundamentals rather than a sudden dramatic appreciation. For years, the Central Bank of Iraq, commonly known as Central Bank of Iraq, has maintained a managed exchange rate framework. The official rate has undergone adjustments, most notably during periods of fiscal stress and oil price volatility. Iraq's economy remains heavily oil-dependent, and that dependency has historically influenced exchange rate policy. When oil revenues fluctuate, fiscal balances shift, and monetary authorities must respond carefully to preserve foreign reserves and domestic stability. In recent years, Iraq has made notable efforts to strengthen its monetary infrastructure. Foreign currency auctions have been restructured. Banking sector compliance has improved, particularly in response to international financial monitoring. The government has also been working toward deeper integration into global financial systems, including trade normalization and regulatory reforms. When someone says, "The stage has been set," it may be a reference to this broader reform architecture. Data-driven support is critical in any exchange rate conversation. When analysts claim the data is solid, they are typically referring to metrics such as foreign reserves, inflation trends, trade balances, fiscal positioning, and monetary stability. Iraq's foreign exchange reserves have been reported at levels that provide a buffer against external shocks. Inflation, while influenced by global commodity cycles, has been relatively contained compared to some emerging markets. Oil production capacity remains significant, providing consistent hard currency inflows. These factors collectively contribute to exchange rate credibility. However, it is essential to remain analytical and grounded. A shift toward a real effective exchange rate does not necessarily mean a sudden windfall event for currency holders. In many cases, REER alignment involves gradual calibration rather than abrupt revaluation. Monetary authorities prioritize stability above speed. Any adjustment would likely aim to balance competitiveness, inflation control, and fiscal sustainability. Short-term implications of entering a new phase centered on REER considerations could include enhanced transparency in monetary reporting. Investors and observers may notice more detailed communication from policymakers. Currency markets could respond with moderate volatility, especially if forward guidance suggests policy recalibration. Domestic banks may experience tighter regulatory enforcement as Iraq strengthens compliance mechanisms tied to cross-border financial flows. In the medium term, improved exchange rate alignment could support trade efficiency. A more accurately valued currency may reduce distortions between official and parallel market rates. It could encourage foreign direct investment by signaling monetary discipline. Multinational corporations evaluating Iraq as a destination often assess currency risk as a primary factor. A data-supported exchange rate framework can reduce perceived uncertainty. For Iraqi dinar followers, it is important to separate structural reform from speculative expectation. Historically, many narratives surrounding the dinar have focused on dramatic overnight scenarios. Professional analysis, however, suggests that durable currency reform emerges from sustained macroeconomic alignment, institutional credibility, and transparent policy implementation. When analysts mention a next phase, they are often pointing to incremental institutional maturity rather than sudden price shifts. Long-term implications could be more substantial if reforms continue consistently. If Iraq maintains reserve strength, controls inflation, diversifies revenue streams beyond oil, and strengthens private sector development, its currency framework becomes inherently more resilient. A resilient currency does not require artificial defense mechanisms. Instead, it is supported by economic fundamentals. It is also worth considering Iraq's broader regional positioning. Neighboring economies operate under various exchange rate regimes, from pegs to managed floats. Iraq's policymakers must evaluate competitiveness within this regional context. If trading partners experience currency adjustments while Iraq remains static, imbalances can develop. Therefore, REER analysis helps maintain equilibrium relative to major trade partners. Another critical factor is public confidence. Exchange rate policy is not only a technical matter, it is psychological. Domestic citizens, businesses, and international partners must believe in the stability of the system. Gradual policy evolution, accompanied by strong communication, builds credibility over time. Abrupt or poorly communicated moves, on the other hand, can generate uncertainty. When observers state that the data is quite solid, this suggests that current macro indicators support reform discussions. Yet data alone does not dictate policy timing. Political stability, legislative coordination, and external economic conditions also influence decision-making. Oil price cycles, global interest rate environments, and geopolitical developments all play roles in determining the appropriate moment for any exchange rate recalibration. Short-term currency watchers should focus on measurable indicators rather than rumors. Monitor official publications, inflation statistics, foreign reserve updates, and banking sector reforms. These elements provide factual context. Long-term observers should track structural diversification efforts. Iraq has been working to expand non-oil sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and digital services. Sustainable currency strength is more likely when multiple revenue streams support national income. It is equally important to acknowledge risks. Global oil demand fluctuations, regional tensions, or external financial restrictions could complicate reform timelines. A real effective exchange rate must remain adaptable. If external shocks occur, central banks often prioritize stabilization over structural advancement. For dinar followers outside Iraq, patience and realistic expectations remain essential. Currency markets operate within global financial systems governed by supply, demand, and macroeconomic fundamentals. While structural reform can enhance long-term credibility, it does not guarantee immediate appreciation. Responsible financial decisions should always consider diversification, risk tolerance, and independent research. The statement that "we've been watching this phase for many years" resonates because Iraq's monetary reform journey has indeed been lengthy. Post-conflict reconstruction, fiscal consolidation, and institutional rebuilding are complex processes. Progress is rarely linear. There are advances, pauses, and recalibrations. But over time, incremental reforms can collectively produce meaningful transformation. If Iraq moves decisively toward a REER-informed framework, it may signal confidence in its economic data integrity. That alone can strengthen international perception. International institutions and credit rating agencies evaluate such developments carefully. Improved ratings can reduce borrowing costs and expand capital access. These secondary effects can be as important as the exchange rate level itself. Ultimately, the key takeaway is that a data-supported, institutionally grounded monetary phase is constructive for economic stability. Whether adjustments are modest or more pronounced, the emphasis appears to be on alignment rather than speculation. For viewers of this channel, the focus should remain on factual developments, not dramatic narratives. As always, we will continue monitoring official announcements, macroeconomic releases, and policy signals from Iraqi authorities. Our commitment is to provide responsible, balanced, and advertiser-friendly analysis grounded in economic reality. If you found today's analysis helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel for ongoing, responsible Iraqi dinar updates. Remember, this content is provided for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Always conduct your own research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making investment decisions.